Leopard Capital, a frontier pioneer market focused fund manager, is with us, and Nick, of course, our guest host, returns for some final thoughts from ABN. Doug, welcome to the show. There was some talk reported earlier in the month that Vietnam's governmental balance sheets, the capital accounts, are such that they might even need the assistance of the IMF. Have you heard anything to that to that degree, and do you think it would actually happen?
I think Vietnam is the weak link in Asia, and is in dire need of structural reform. It feels a lot like Thailand in the mid-90s. And I think the IMF coming in would be a wonderful solution because it could force them to make the necessary changes to the economy.
Thailand in the mid-90s was not a good situation because we saw what happened in 1998 when the implosion of the baht kind of led us into the Asian financial crisis. Is that the way they're actually headed in Vietnam, or do they have that lesson in the past in the bag to learn from and to steer clear of any kind of situation like that?
I think in both cases there was a huge property bubble. Too much money was poured into the property market for speculative reasons. The banking sector is now very weak in Vietnam, and it will take years to correct.
Let me bring Nick in from ABN, our guest host. Nick, say hi to Doug.
Good morning, Doug. What's the outlook for structural reform in Vietnam? Will there be any reforms on the agenda even without the IMF?
I think it's difficult that Vietnam has still not let go of its socialist tendencies. So too much of the economy is still in state hands, with state banks lending to state enterprises who eventually put a lot of it into property. So I think they need to seriously privatize the economy and look around at other countries in the region.
So, Doug, what does this mean for investors? Just painting in broad strokes here for people who don't normally follow this market. Should they just avoid Vietnam altogether?
I think Vietnam's a good trading market from time to time because it's highly volatile, but I don't think it's a long-term hold until they address their fundamental problems.
What do you make of this ACB scandal? It's even made it this far to the business pages in the press here. Does it say something about governance, oversight, and the need for regulatory reform on top of the economic reform that we discussed?
There's a feeling that this is the tip of the iceberg in Vietnam, and that there's a lot of other rot in some of the other banks, and especially in the state banks, and that the situation might be even worse there.
When you say it's a trading market, what does that mean exactly? I mean, you pick and choose? I mean, there is no. Do you have to take a very agnostic, almost atheistic approach to the market and not be married to any one, sector of the economy or any one particular industry within the Vietnamese economy?
Well, I think the consumption sector is more dynamic than some of the other sectors. So I think there is a long-term story in certain sectors, but overall, you can buy this market when it's totally bombed out, and then as soon as people get excited about it, you should be selling it.
I can totally understand. I totally get the consumption, especially considering how young the economy is. I mean, people move from bicycles to motorized scooters, and there's at least 8 million of them in Ho Chi Minh City, judging from how I took my life in my own hands last time I was there. How do you actually participate in that theme though at Leopard Capital? I mean, you don't just go in and buy a Vietnamese, I don't know, retailer or something like that, do you, or do you?
We stock pick and we look for small cap, undervalued stocks. And as soon as
wait, small cap in the Vietnam context? That means these are names that nobody else would know but you.
Right. Well, almost everything in Vietnam is sort of a small cap, but we don't necessarily buy the largest companies because often they're not the best companies.
Right.
So we have to dig deeper.
Okay. I want to swing it back to Nick before we let both of you gentlemen go. Nick, have you ever visited Vietnam, by the way, Nick? I mean, it is a young, dynamic place. I mean, the demographics, I think half the country or more, almost half the country is under the age of like 25 or 26 or something like that. I mean, they have the wherewithal, and population demographics are very much on their side. Do you think 10 years out, 20 years out, this is a clear winner, regardless of structural problems right now?
Well, I think I agree with Doug. I think that I think the economy has huge potential, but structural reform is badly needed to unlock that potential. So, I think the reform agenda is really the key thing to focus on.
Okay. Appreciate it very much. Nick, appreciate your hour of power with us, okay? You take very good care. And Doug, always good to see you, okay? Forge ahead.
Thank you.
Find more of those names at Leopard Capital.